As you probably know, it's Rare Disease Day today, February the 28th.
Yeah.
And I'm here talking with Lucy Mckay, who will introduce herself in a minute. And you may know me, I'm Dan Jeffries. I'm very lucky to have two very rare diseases. And I've obviously been working in advocating and supporting rare disease for a while. We'll probably come on to that in a little bit. Lucy, tell us about you, who you are, what do you do?
Hello. Thank you for having me on an interview. Yeah, as you say, I'm Lucy Mckay. So I'm a qualified junior doctor, but I'm also a founding member and board member of Medics for Rare Diseases. And we were yesterday students for rare diseases, but today we're medics for rare diseases because we've graduated.
Yes, you have. So you've had a bit of a name change.
Yes.
And what's the intention and the sort of concept behind Medics for Rare Diseases?
So a group of friends and I have been promoting rare disease education amongst medical students and doctors in training since we were at medical school ourselves in 2011. And it's gone from strength to strength. And the reason we do it is because 3.5 million people in the UK live with a rare disease, which is a huge patient population. So what we want the medical education system to understand is that although each rare disease is individually rare, together this is a big population of people who face similar challenges within healthcare, within education, and within social care, and that it's our responsibility to learn about what those challenges are.
It's that the concept of together stronger, isn't it? And sharing experience, sharing knowledge, and so what you do is you sort of find speakers or people with rare conditions, and try and send them into sort of medical establishments or universities and get them to share their story. Is that right?
I like to think of us, we're kind of like matchmakers. We find great enthusiastic people with a story to tell like you, Dan. And then we find medical students and doctors who are keen to produce events or learn about rare diseases and help put them together and start spreading the word. Because the interesting thing about rare diseases is once you start getting into the topic, it's extremely interesting, and the patients are very engaging, and it's a great area to work. So once medical students are hooked, they tend to stay with us.
Yeah.
But we're just trying to work on that first bit of getting medical students and doctors in training to dare to think rare.
Very good. And it seems like the interest in rare disease has really kind of exploded over the last 3-4 years. Am I right in saying that, or have I just been oblivious to it?
I think sometimes it's hard to know because you're in it and care about it. But I completely agree, and I hope that partly this is driven by the brilliant 100,000 Genomes project and how genomics is going to change the face of everyday medicine. And also, I think it's driven by the rare disease community who go above and beyond to openly discuss what needs to be done and what challenges are being faced.
And it's amazing, really, is that, thank God we have huge teams of specialists, but actually, I think the specialists crave the insight and the knowledge from the patients, because obviously they're the ones living with it, that experience the nuances of these conditions every day, and it's a sort of fantastic collaboration of the science and the real, as it were, to sort of try and get the best results and the best awareness.
I think it's the old days of medicine. It's curiosity and it's compassion, and I think that I'm a doctor and I understand the pressure to always appear like you know exactly what's happening, and not being able or feeling difficult to say I actually don't know about this.
Yeah.
And I think that's where rare diseases and being a doctor sort of have a bit of friction, because if someone comes into your GP practice and you've got less than 10 minutes to see them and they've got a rare disease,
It's not long enough, is it?
you will understandably feel like you can't give them your best service. And I think that we need to be helping doctors to get the best out of their relationship with their patients, and I think that's through fundamental education about rare diseases.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as a small example, when I was diagnosed with the acromegaly, and that was by medical students, which we'll come on to in a minute. When I went to see my GP, once I'd read up what acromegaly was and decided, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got this, I went to my GP and I explained what had happened at the eye hospital, and he said, right, I think we need to do a glucose test, or we need to do some test. But he went straight onto Google and looked it up, because it's not common enough. And do you know what? I'd much rather he did that than say, well, I don't know. What should we do? So
or say, oh, you know more about this than me, and then close the door a bit. It's great when it's great when people just say, I don't know. I'm gonna try and find out.
I'll get back to you.
Yeah, and your story of being diagnosed with acromegaly is brilliant. So in a clinical examination, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I was in 2007. Bristol Eye Hospital wrote me a letter because I have this AVM, arteriovenous malformation, called Wyburn-Mason syndrome, which has affected my left eye. I'm completely blind, and it's quite an astonishing thing to look at when you look in the eye. As I found out yesterday when I went to Specsavers to get my eye test done, and they took a retinal image of it, or a digital image of it, sorry, and I can see the poor consultant who's only there to take photos of it, looking at this picture of my eye, go, what the hell is this?
Yes.
Because it just looks like a plate of spaghetti. Anyway, Bristol Eye Hospital said, would you come in, because we have some final year students who are going to, ophthalmology students, I think, who are going to try and diagnose your Wyburn-Mason syndrome. And I was like, of course I will, because I want to give back and I want to help people further their careers, etc., and their study. So I'm sat in the room, and the consultant says to the first student, okay, here's the patient. What do you see? And before they even looked to my, sorry?
Dan, I'm just going to say that for the medics and out there, so this is the end of the bed. What do you see about the patient from the end of the bed? This is classic. This is how all of the examinations are structured. So,
well, I just thought they were going to just pick up their ophthalmoscope and look in my eye.
Yeah, but no.
But you're seeing the patient as a whole, and that was such an important thing for me to learn that day. So the first student says, well, he's got very large hands and a protruding jaw and this exposed forehead. And I'm thinking, well,
all right,
wreck, I only came in to get my eyes checked. and then the examiner said, so why do you think that might be? And she said, could be due to release of excessive growth hormones due to a pituitary adenoma. Now, I didn't know what that meant, so I just thought, no, you've got that wrong. It's Wyburn-Mason syndrome. An adenoma.
You're not going to pass.
Yeah, it's exactly what I thought. Then the second one said it, and then the third one said it, and then the fourth one said it. And I'm sat there thinking, this is slightly weird. And interestingly, only 1 out of the 5 diagnosed the Wyburn-Mason syndrome correctly. So even final year medical students weren't aware of it. But at the end, I said to the consultant, I said, look, they've all said this thing about I've got big hands and big head and, my jaw. I don't know what they're talking about. And he said, well, you should go and see a doctor. You might have something called acromegaly. So I ran out of the hospital, typed acromegaly into Google, and read the symptoms. And the symptoms completely matched up with what I had been going through for the last 7-8 years. Enlarged tongue, change in appearance, loss of libido, change in hand and feet size,
Yeah.
sweating, all of these things. And so I immediately phoned my parents and said, I know what's wrong with me, which, I think I've got a brain tumor.
Really?
Yeah, it's not, not the easiest phone call to make. But to me, it was just like, thank God I've worked out why I'm feeling so crap. And so the next day I phoned the GP and the ball got rolling.
But isn't that, there's two things I want to pick up on there, which is one, the relief of the diagnosis.
Yeah, completely.
And how much that will mean to someone. And I think there's sort of an old idea of, well, not in acromegaly, but in other things, if you can't do anything about it, what's the point?
Yeah.
But actually knowledge and accurate information is the point, which is true, especially for the 75% of children affected, of people affected by rare diseases that are children. And lots of diseases that once were untreatable are treatable, but I'm not sure that medical education has caught up with that.
Okay.
And those that aren't treatable, oh, come on, up-to-date information and what's going to happen, and is my child going to go to school the whole way through, go to university, get married, or realistically they're not going to be with us still in a few years' time.
Yeah.
Information and support is the point.
Well, on that, amazingly, last week a lady contacted me on Facebook. She was clearly really keen to get in touch with me, and she sent me a message and said, look, I found you because we've been searching for Wyburn-Mason syndrome. She said there's nothing about it on the net, or very, very little. And her sister was terribly affected by AVMs, and were getting very little information from their healthcare trusts, and they just didn't know what to do. But now I'm in a position where I'm thinking, I want to help, and I'll tell you as much as I can, but I am not a medical professional. So the social media world has massively helped to raise awareness, share stories, but it must not be a place for diagnosis. And I think sometimes it has that tendency. I've been on discussion boards where someone's come on saying, I've got these symptoms, do I have acromegaly?
Yeah.
Your doctor and your hospital will need to tell you that.
And you need to be getting accurate information. So there's the appropriate websites. And the great thing about family support groups and patient groups is they often have the best, most up-to-date, most scrutinized information out there. These are the places that doctors can go to get information when they don't know what's going on or how to support. Patient groups are invaluable, and I think this is another part of medical education that we could look at, which is understanding what patient groups do. They are a shoulder to cry on, but they're not just a shoulder to cry on.
No, absolutely.
And then I think the other thing I wanted to come back to was, through medical school, you were taught to stand at the end of the bed, look at the patient, taking everything around them. What paraphernalia is? Have they got a walking stick? Have they got a blind dog that you hadn't noticed? Or a dog blind in the corner? And then you look at their hands, you look at their face, and you do a general inspection before going on to your focused exam. But there's so much pressure on doctors these days that if that bit gets lost, that beginning bit, and you go straight to the focused exam, then you'll miss the acromegaly because you've gone straight to the eye.
Yes. I remember my endocrinologist saying sometimes we look at the results first before we look at the patient, and it's both, isn't it? It's working with all of that data to sort of come up with the best assessment.
Yes.
Okay. I think we'll start wrapping up in a minute, but what's your plans for Medics for Rare Disease? What does the next year hold?
Okay, well, so the next year holds, well, I now essentially find myself we've got a board, and we're hopefully going to get some, because I'm a doctor and I've been working out social media and communications and marketing by myself, so hopefully going to get some support with those so that we can reach more doctors in training and more medical students. And I would, and I hope that we'll be producing some specific materials, learning materials for our audience. So there's lots of brilliant rare disease learning resources out there, but I think that our unique focus is important. And on top of that, we have helped support medical students produce their own events. So tomorrow there's a brilliant rare disease training day event happening in Birmingham with the Birmingham Rare Disease Society, which is a group of great medical students who are supported by Birmingham Women and Children's Hospital as well.
Okay.
So that kind of thing we'll keep doing, keep supporting these events and updating our website. And we also collaborate on the Find a Cure essay. So I think the answer is more of the above.
Fantastic. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with over the course of the year.
And hopefully we're going to get an event in Bristol where more people can hear your brilliant story, because I just think it's the perfect example of why we need to always remember to think outside the box. So if people want updates on what we're doing and when this event gets going, our website is www.m4rd.org.
I'll put a link in the video somewhere up here, down there, somewhere like that. We'll make that happen. Lucy, it's been fantastic talking to you. Good luck for the rest of the year. And it's Rare Disease Day, and knowledge is power. Share this, share any resources that you find online. Let's get the word out there.
And you'll know, wear your stripes.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Lucy.
Thank you, Dan. Bye.
Bye.